Your ancestor is standing at the edge of a grass plain, and something moves 800 meters away, at the edge of what most modern humans would just call a green blur. They don't reach for anything. They don't squint. They just see it, the shape, the gait, whether it's predator or prey, clearly enough to decide, right then, whether to run or to hunt. Now picture you this morning, holding your phone 6 inches from your face because the text is just slightly too small, or reaching for a pair of glasses on the nightstand before you can even read the clock. Somewhere between that hunter and you, something happened to human eyesight. And the honest answer is stranger, and far more recent, than most people assume. To understand what changed, you have to understand what the human eye was actually built for. It's not a general-purpose camera. It's a survival tool, shaped over millions of years around a very specific demand, seeing far away, in bright natural light, almost constantly. Distance vision meant spotting a predator before it spotted you, tracking an animal across open terrain, judging exactly how far a thrown spear needed to travel. For nearly the entire span of human existence, the eye rarely had to focus on anything closer than an arm's length for more than a few minutes at a time. And critically, almost all of that seeing happened outdoors, under sunlight vastly brighter than anything found inside a building, even a well-lit one. The first real disruption to that system didn't come from bad genes. It came from a behavior, sustained close-up focus indoors, for hours at a stretch. The earliest people to experience this in any concentrated way were scribes and monks, hunched for years over manuscripts in dim scriptoriums. By the 11th century, some of them were already using a simple workaround, a polished piece of curved glass called a reading stone, laid directly over the text to magnify it for aging eyes. By the 1280s in Italy, that idea had been reshaped into wearable lenses, the first eyeglasses. It's a small detail, but it marks something significant. The moment humans started needing corrective lenses in any noticeable number is also roughly the moment large numbers of humans started reading indoors for a living. That's not a coincidence historians dismiss lightly. The real proof, though, comes from watching this shift happen in real time, in populations still living close to their ancestral pattern. In 1969, researchers led by Francis Young studied an Inuit community in Barrow, Alaska. Among adults who had grown up hunting outdoors with no formal schooling, myopia was almost non-existent, under 2%. Among their own children, the first generation raised attending Western-style schools indoors, myopia rates jumped to over 50% in a single generation, with no time for genetics to have shifted at all. That pattern kept reappearing. In the 2000s, researchers Catherine Rose and Ian Morgan compared children in Sydney, Australia to children in Singapore. Sydney kids spent close to 14 hours a week outdoors. Singaporean children, in a densely urban, exam-driven system, spent barely 3. Myopia rates in Singapore ran roughly 3 times higher, even though the two groups did comparable amounts of near work like reading and screens. Around the same period, epidemiologist Siang Mei Saw's research across East Asia found some cities where over 80% of teenagers leaving school were myopic, an almost unimaginable number by ancestral standards. And in a strikingly different setting, researchers studying Old Order Amish communities in the United States, populations that limit formal schooling and screen use while spending large amounts of time working outdoors, found myopia rates dramatically lower than in the surrounding non-Amish population of the same genetic ancestry. By 2016, a landmark global analysis led by Brian Holden and colleagues, published in the journal Ophthalmology, projected that if trends continued, roughly half the world's population would be myopic by 2050. Half. A condition that was a genuine rarity in outdoor, ancestral populations was on track to become the statistical majority. So what's actually happening inside the eye? This is where the real mechanism gets revealed, and it isn't really about ancient humans having sharper vision hardware than you. Genetically, your eyes are essentially the same instrument your ancestors carried. What's changed is the environment that instrument develops in. Myopia isn't really about weak eyes. It's about a slightly elongated eyeball, stretched just enough that images focus in front of the retina instead of directly on it. Researchers now believe that bright outdoor light triggers the retina to release dopamine, a chemical that appears to signal the eye to stop growing at the right time during childhood. Spend your early years mostly indoors, under artificial light roughly 10 to 100 times dimmer than daylight, staring at close-up screens and pages for hours, and that growth-breaking signal simply doesn't fire the way it evolved to. Which brings us to right now. Children today spend more time indoors, doing more sustained near work, under dimmer light, starting earlier in life, than any generation in human history. It's not that modern eyes are broken. It's that we've built an environment almost perfectly engineered to trigger a growth pattern evolution never designed for, at a scale and speed biology has never had to face before. So the next time you push your glasses up your nose to read something 6 inches from your face, understand what you're actually looking at. Not a flaw passed down through your bloodline, but the fingerprint of a species that used to spend its whole life looking outward, at the horizon, and now spends most of it looking down.